Hi, and welcome to my knitting podcast. My name is Marie, and I'm a knitter and maker based in beautiful Bergen. Here I sew, knit, and create garments that brings me joy and fit seamlessly into my life. For me, patterns are more suggestions than rules. I love tweaking them to make garments that suits my life and my wardrobe. Sometimes that means giving it a little twist, changing the construction, adjusting the shape, swapping out yarns, or adding personal details that make the final piece feel like me. My hope is that through this podcast, I can share my processes with you and maybe even give you the permission to break a few rules yourself. Whether you're a seasoned knitter or just picking up your first pair of needles, I want this to feel like a cozy sit-down with a crafty friend. In this episode, we'll cover 2 finished objects, 3 works in progress, including a new cast-on, and a few acquisitions. Let's start with what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Venelia Tee, and honestly, it feels like the perfect choice for those soft in-between fall days. You know, those transitional weeks when the air starts to bite just a little, but the sun still lingers on your shoulders. That's the season when I find myself reaching for these kinds of knits again and again. And that's why this is not only what I'm wearing, but also my most worn knit for October. The Venelia pattern is by Sari Nordlund and has a quiet elegance that makes it feel both easy and elevated. It's knit top down with a delicate lace yoke, just enough detail to keep things interesting without feeling too fussy. I was drawn to it the moment I saw the yoke. It has this softness and structure all at once, and it gives the tee a timeless quality that I really love. There's something about lace like this that feels summery in spirit but versatile enough to layer into autumn too. What really makes this shine in my wardrobe is the versatility. I've styled it over dresses, with wide leg trousers, and over a silk skirt, and it always works. It's the kind of piece you forget you're wearing because it just fits into your day, your mood, and your wardrobe. For my version, I used Mondim yarn, a non-superwash fingering weight made from Portuguese wool, and this colorway, this is like my yarn soulmate. It's punchy but grounded, earthy with a little playfulness. I already have 2 other knits in this color, my Swag Sweater and a Brioche Fade, and I knew this tee would round out the trio beautifully. It's Yellow Brick Road by La Bien-Aimée, and this yarn gives such crisp stitch definition, especially throughout the lace. It's rustic but soft, with a natural bounce that makes the fabric feel alive. As always, I made a few adjustments. Instead of a traditional ribbed hem, I finished with a double knit edge, both on the sleeves and on the body. It creates this clean line that doesn't compete with the lace yoke, but frames it nicely. I also went down a size and added some extra short rows after the lace section. I have narrow shoulders, and I find that circular yokes sometimes can be a bit tricky, but here these tweaks helped me. The only detail I'm a little unsure about is the neckline. It's a bit wider than what I usually wear, and while it's not a deal breaker, I do find myself wishing it sat just a touch tighter. I've talked about this in the past episodes, how short rows after the lace can sometimes feel a bit off in terms of fit, for me at least, and I still feel that way. But I also wouldn't want to sacrifice the way the lace begins right after the neckline. That clean, elegant start is a part of what makes this piece so special. Even with those little hesitations, this is easily my most worn knit this month, and I'm so happy it's part of my wardrobe. It's light, wearable, and quietly beautiful. It's a piece that feels like me. So let's get into my finished objects, because there's 2 this episode. I have one that's very special, the Isabella Sweater, and this one feels a little different because it's just not a sweater that I knit, it's also a sweater I designed myself. The construction for the Isabella Sweater has quietly been living in my notes and spreadsheets for quite some time now. The behind the scenes space where I fine-tune numbers, proportions and ideas until they start to feel like something wearable. Every time I knit for myself, I return to this evolving framework I've built over years. It's filled with those little adjustments I've discovered work for my body, from how I shape the sleeves to how I place the neckline depth. And the Isabella is a result of all of this and that journey so far. For this design, I used the classic raglan construction, which I always come back to. It's familiar, intuitive, and offers just enough room for customization, which is where the real magic happens. I didn't follow the typical increase every other round rule. Instead, for my size and my body, I've added some extra body increases early to give myself the room I need for my chest, while still keeping the sleeves and shoulders neat and fitted. It's such a small tweak on paper, but on the body, it makes all the difference. I also worked the neckline flat rather than adding short rows. Over time, I realized that this method gives me a better fit around the neck. It creates a slightly more open front with a higher lift in the back. It's flattering, it's comfortable without any fuss. What really brought the sweater to life though was the yarn. My yarn choice was Helix by La Bien-Aimée in the colorway Lisa. And oh, what a dream. Lisa is such a rich, sophisticated pink, deepened by burgundy undertones and softened with subtle hints of gray. It's bold, but it's grounded in a wearable way. Every time I knit with it, I find myself smiling at the color. It just glows. The yarn itself is a light fingering weight, spun with Falkland merino and Gotland wool. The blend gives it a special sheen and bounce. It's lofty, airy, and holds texture beautifully. I used it held double for this sweater, which gave me a lightweight but substantial fabric with incredible drape. And that texture details I added to the sleeves and collar, it came out exactly how I hoped. A gentle lift that adds character without shouting too loud. And yes, the Isabella sweater is finished, and even more exciting, the pattern is now out for testing. I'm just so happy with how it turned out. Simple, wearable, full of the kind of thought and intention that makes it feel truly mine, and I hope also truly yours. I can't wait to see how it takes shape on others too. One of the quieter but really satisfying finishes from this past month has been the Helgesen scarf. I have both casted it on and off this past month. It has a beautiful and simple design. It's knit lengthwise in garter stitch, with one end coming to a clean point here, and the other one is finished off with a slant. The subtle asymmetry gives it a modern feel without taking away from its overall softness. It's the kind of piece that feels both thoughtful and unassuming, just the way I like it. The shaping is done with the mixture of German short rows and decreases, which makes the knitting both meditative and just interesting enough. I found myself reaching for it in those in-between moments, in the early mornings with a coffee or winding down in the evenings. Despite the shaping, it ended up being a very mindless knit in the best possible way. I never had to pause or look at a chart, which made the whole process feel wonderfully slow and grounded. I've knitted in 2 shades of 100% cashmere from Kit Couture in deep burgundy and warm taupe. These colors are such a lovely pair. The burgundy is rich and heathered with a bit of drama, while the top is soft, earthy, and calming. Used together in these stripes, they create this gentle contrast that's quietly striking without trying too hard. Now, working with pure cashmere was a bit of a first time for me, and I have to say it's such a treat. The yarn is light, it's incredibly soft, and it has this beautiful drape that just melts into the fabric. It did split a bit on me while knitting, but it wasn't a big issue. Just something to be mindful of, and this really made me want to work more with cashmere, especially for these simple next to skin accessories. that aren't that big. Finishing this scarf has me thinking ahead. I've been curious about intarsia lately, and the fade into intarsia by La Bien-Aimée scarf has been sitting quietly on my radar, and I'm imagining it in shades of blue, so that might be another small cashmere project on my horizon. So if you've ever worked with cashmere that has held up beautifully, I'd love for you to share a little fiber knowledge with me as well. Now let's go over and into my whips. And let's talk about a project that's been slowly growing on my needles this autumn. It's the Slanting Slipover. This one has had a slower rhythm from the start, and it's really been taking a bit of time on my needles. It hasn't been the kind of project I knit in big bursts, but more of a steady companion. Something I pick up in quiet moments, row by row, stitch by stitch. Before I share where I am with it, I do want to pause for a moment to talk about sizing. This pattern only goes up to 112 busts, and that's about 44 inches. While I do have the skills to modify this pattern to fit my body, not every knitter does, and honestly, they shouldn't have to. I think that everyone deserves to have garments that will fit them comfortably and beautifully without needing to rewrite the pattern themselves. And I have been thinking a lot about this while knitting this vest. Going forward, I really want to be more intentional about the designers and patterns I support, especially when it comes to size range. I'll still share patterns like this one, and I always want to be open about the modifications I make in case they're helpful for others. But I also want to use my platform to support the kind of knitting community I believe in, one where all bodies are included, represented, and celebrated. I share more about this in my summer episode, so feel free to go back and listen if you'd like a deeper dive into my thoughts on this matter. I've been documenting the changes I'm making to this vest as I go. I have mentioned making a tutorial on how I approach adapting sizing for anybody, a gentle, practical guide from one knitter to another. And yes, I am still planning to make that video once this vest is finished. And it's been a while since I mentioned it the first time, so I feel like I've been teasing it forever. But now this vest is my top priority. I'm hopeful I'll have the slipover ready by the next episode and then the video around the same time. Now, as far of the slipover itself, I'm knitting in Isager Aran Tweed, and I'm really happy with the texture so far. The yarn is rustic in all the right kinds of ways, with those colorful little tweed flecks that makes each row feel a little different. It's soft enough to wear next to skin, but still has that sturdy character I love in a layering piece. I have doubled the collar for a cleaner, more structured neckline. This gives the piece a kind of a quiet polish that I'm really enjoying. I've also chosen to leave the sides open, and I will add a single button under each arm. It's a small tweak, but it changes the silhouette just enough to feel a bit unexpected and very me. Right now I am working on the back side. I'm finally feeling that familiar momentum start to build. The short rows are just beginning to shape the shoulders, and I'm excited to see how they help lift the neckline at the back. They are done in a bit of a different way than what I'm used to. You can see that the shoulders are kind of sloping upwards. So I'm really interested to see how that works on the body. This is one of those knits where the beauty lives in the structure, in how it comes together quietly and precisely. Even though it's taken its time to get to this point, I've never regretted this pace. Some knits are like that. They don't rush you, they invite you to slow down, to pay attention, and to knit with intention. But the Slanting Slipover isn't the only slow burn in my whips pile at the moment. The Diona Tee moves slowly and quietly in the background, and honestly, I am okay with that. Not every knit needs to be fast and urgent. Some ask for a little more intention and time, and the Diona Tee definitely are one of those. This design really ticks all of the boxes for me. It's light, it's elegant, with a shape that feels simple but elevated. What drew me in right away was the cable motif. It runs delicately down the front and the back, adding a soft structure and texture without feeling too busy. And then there's the 2x2 ribbing on the sides and sleeves, which keeps everything neat and balanced. It's the kind of piece that looks polished but feels relaxed. It's the perfect blend, I think. I'm knitting mine in a silk and BFL blend by the Wool Kitchen, a yarn I picked up way back in 2019 at Edinburgh Yarn Fest. It's been waiting patiently in my stash ever since, and now I have finally decided it is that yarn's time to shine, and it's getting the spotlight it truly deserves. The yarn itself is beautiful. It's strong, it's soft, with that gorgeous sheen that only silk can bring. And the color, it's almost a silvery blue with copper speckles that catch the light in the prettiest way. I can already tell it is going to elevate the whole look of the tee. Progress-wise, things are moving slowly, and they probably will continue at that pace. Since I last checked in, I've knit about 10 centimeters after the split for the sleeves. It might not sound like much, but it feels like a small victory. Some garments just come together at their own rhythm, and I'm learning to let that be okay. No pressure, no deadline, just slow, steady knitting when the moment feels right. And that's really something I love about having multiple projects on the go. Some are quick and focused, and others, like this Diona Tee, are more about the process than the finish line. And it's a reminder that progress doesn't have to be fast to be meaningful. Let's get into a new cast-on, because sometimes all I really want is miles of smooth stockinette. That soft rhythm kind of knitting that just flows. And lately, that craving led me straight to a new cast-on, the Liv Tee. This project is completely improvised so far. No pattern, just the idea that I have floating around in my head for a while. I've wanted to create a blouse with a classic shirt collared, quite dramatic puffed sleeves, and a few delicate buttons to finish everything off. It's the kind of knit that feels just a bit dressy without losing that everyday wearability. For construction, I'm using a variation of the contiguous saddle shoulder, I think. It starts with increasing along the shoulders and then shaping this puff at the top of the sleeves, and then transitioning into somewhat of raglan construction down here. I've used this type of constructions before, and I always find that it creates such a beautiful fit, especially across the shoulders and the upper chest. And even though it sounds a bit complex, it's surprisingly quick to knit once you get going. The progress on this one has really been growing in my hands. I think it's because of the construction itself feels so rewarding. Each phase brings a small shift, a little aha moment. First the shoulders, then the shaping of the puff sleeves, and now I'm working my way down the raglan into the body. It's like knitting with a beat that slightly shifts. For me, this project has been the perfect mix of ease and engagement, though the math has kept it interesting for me, but not so much that it pulls me out of the flow. And that's my favorite kind of knitting, when the process itself feels rewarding and good to be in. Now let's talk about the yarn. I'm using two bases held together, 4/4 fingering and moonspun, both by Moondrake Company. 4/4 is this dreamy blend of brushed cashmere and merino. It's soft, floaty, and just the tiniest bit fussy. It's exactly as soft as it sounds. And then there's Moonspun, which is a collaboration with Spin Cycle. It's full of colors and playful energy. The color I have chosen for both bases is this luminous golden olive green that somehow manages to feel grounded and vibrant all at once. It's like matcha and moss and sunshine all wrapped into one. The color is called Lichten. Held together, these two yarns create the loveliest fabric. It's soft and fluid. It's a bit more fussy than using mohair. It has this tiny halo and just enough color variation to keep everything interesting. I'm imagining the finished tee as this lightweight, breathable piece with just a bit of structure. Perfect for layering or wearing on its own throughout both spring, autumn, maybe summer here in Norway. So far, this has been such a joyful cast on, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Liv Tee continues to take shape and how those small details like the color and the buttons will come together with the simplicity of the stockinette body. It feels like one of those knits that will be worth the wait. Now let's slide into my acquisitions, because since the last episode I've had the joy of attending not just one but 2 yarn festivals. So yes, there have been a few acquisitions. The treasures I picked up at Berlin Knits are already featured in a separate vlog, so if you're curious, feel free to head over and give that a watch. But today I want to focus on the pieces I brought home from Bergen Strikkefestival or Bergen Knitting Festival, because these are truly some special ones. Let's start with a skein that honestly feels like a whisper. This cozy crime lace from Through the Wardrobe Yarn Company. This base is a luxurious blend of 40% Surrey alpaca, 30% ultra fine merino and 20% silk. And it is as dreamy as it sounds. It has that soft haloed glow from the Surrey, balanced by the bounce of merino and just enough shine from the silk to make it feel elegant. The color is a blushy pink, like rose petals and cream. It's delicate, romantic, and ever so slightly luminous. It actually have 1200 meters on one skein. So my hope is actually that this one skein paired together with another yarn will be enough for a whole sweater. And let me tell you that this yarn is already spoken for. I'll be using it for the Pearl Sweater by Magdalena Parker, which has been on my list for a while now. It's a cozy all-over cable design. It's flowing, relaxed, and beautifully shaped. What makes it especially meaningful for me is that I'm planning to knit it using some leftover yarns from my wedding dress together with this one. Just saying that out loud gives me a bit of goosebumps. The sweater will be the kind of continuations, a soft echo of something really personal and special. I'm really looking forward to that one. The dyer behind this brand, Through the Wardrobe Yarn Company, has a really lovely story. The dyer draws inspiration from children's fantasy books, especially the Chronicles of Narnia, which she was gifted as a child by her grandmother. It's the kind of backstory that makes the yarn feel even more magical, like every skein carries a little bit of story with it. So I already know the Pearl Sweater will be a meaningful and beautiful piece coming to my wardrobe. Another yarn that really stole my heart was Mot Østen by Lille Rille. I bought 2 skeins, one in the color Dusty Rose and then another one in Tori. This base is a blend of 50% baby camel and 50% silk, and it's incredibly soft, drapey and warm. One of my absolute favorite bases by Lille Rille. I already have a tegna knit in this yarn, so I know I love how it behaves. These particular color together really glows with the rich reds, the burnt oranges, and some of those copper tones with a sheen that shifts with the light. I don't have a concrete plan for it yet, but I'm holding on to it for spring. Maybe a lightweight sweater or an elegant tee. It's the kind of yarn you wait for the right idea to come along. And finally, I have picked up some Hillesvåg Vidde in this beautiful petrol green. It's this deep muted teal that reminds me of Nordic fjords on a cloudy day. Vidde is a rustic blend of 80% lamb's wool and 20% pelts wool, which gives it just enough texture and depth to feel cozy and substantial. And it's still soft enough to wear next to skin at least for me, but I do have to say it's quite rustic. I mentioned this in my fall knitting plans. My idea is to use it for a drop shoulder sweater with a v-neck twisted rib and some subtle cables, like checkered panels. I'm experimenting with a saddle shoulder and drop shoulder kind of construction where all of the shaping happens along the shoulder lines, knit contiguously. It's a bit of an experiment for me, but I'm really excited about it. Each of these yarn feels like they are carrying a little spark of something. And that's what I love most about acquisitions like this ones. They're not just materials, they are possibilities and it's inspiration. So I really hope this episode gave you a little inspiration, whether it was a project to add to your queue or yarn you're now curious about, or just that cozy feeling of knitting alongside someone else. That's always my hope, that these episodes feel like a pause in your day. They are in my day, where we can share our love of making, slowing down and reconnecting with the joy of the process. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe here and come and say hi over on Instagram. I love hearing what's on your needles too. And if you haven't watched my fall knitting plans video yet, I'll link it right here. Until next time, keep knitting what brings you joy.